And chapter 13, they are all concepts that you guys should have heard of at some point in your life. So our key concept, all living things require energy. And all of the animals, good morning, Benjamin, in this picture are getting their energy. Good morning, Jonathan. There is more than one way to get energy. But these animals right here get their energy by eating, and eating meat specifically. So producers, organisms that are considered producers, get their energy from non-living resources, such as soil, water, and sunlight. We also call them autotrophs because they make their own food. The prefix auto means self. If you're writing an autobiography, you're writing something about yourself. And the root word troph means food or nutrition or nutrients or nourishment. We stick with food because it's simple. So plants are the main producers in our world, and they are self-feeding. They make their own food within their own cells. Using what? What do plants use to make food? Do you guys know? They use sunlight. Photosynthesis, yes. But part of that is they use sunlight. That's the process. We went over it way back last semester in chapter 4. So all ecosystems are dependent on all producers. All ecosystems are dependent on producers because they provide energy for all the living things in it.
Wait, so I have a question about that. So what came before the producer or the actual energy itself?
The
Like
producers.
the producers. Okay. Makes sense.
So even if a carnivore, like a lion, doesn't specifically eat plants, it doesn't matter because the food that they eat eats the plants.
So it's just like there's levels, like there's a pyramid to it.
Yep, and that's the next section. That's 13.4. We'll go over the pyramid.
Okay.
Well, more of a chain.
Yeah, it's like the chain, the ecosystem chain.
Yeah, the food chain. Somebody's opening my door, so let's see who's here. Let's say hi to Mr. Cousins. I'm teaching an IOA class. Can I help you?
I didn't forget about you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks you for everything. Hello, everybody online.
They're blurry.
Hello.
Okay. All right. Next, sunlight. Like Cynthia gave us, most producers perform photosynthesis, which uses sunlight as an energy source to make food. So this makes sunlight the ultimate source of energy on Earth. However, there are some producers that perform a process called chemosynthesis, which uses chemicals as an energy source to make food. So the best way to describe these are deep, deep in the ocean, there are volcanoes. And there are bacteria that live in those volcanoes. So there are actual living organisms that live in and around these volcanoes.
So they adapt to it basically.
Uh-huh.
That's cool.
So they use the chemicals that come out of there's no sunlight deep in the ocean, so they need something else. So they
Like
use the
some form of radiation, I guess.
Well,
Well, for us, it's like like the
simple
waves.
hydrogen sulfide.
So just the chemicals basically they use.
So underwater volcanoes spit out their form of lava. They're called hydrothermal vents. And hydrogen sulfide comes out, and the bacteria uses that hydrogen sulfide to make their food.
Isn't it like small bacteria, like very like miniature bacteria, like microscopic?
All bacteria are microscopic.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay.
I did realize that right now. I was like, wait.
Consumers are our next level. Consumers are organisms that get their energy by eating other living things or once living resources like plants and animals. Consumers are also called heterotrophs because they get energy from different sources. We've gone over the prefix hetero before. Homo means same, homologous, homozygous, and then hetero means different. So hetero means different. And in this case, it means an outside source, something outside of themselves. So they get their food from an outside source. And this is us. We are consumers. We have to consume our food to be able to get energy. There are three types of consumers, and they're the three consumers that we went over at the very beginning in the bell work. Carnivores eat meat only, and there are animals that only eat meat. Herbivores eat plants. Omnivores eat both plants and meat. So while we like meat and we eat it, we still eat our vegetables, or we should, because they're good for you. We are omnivores. Even if all you eat is chips. Chips can be made out of potatoes, they can be made out of corn, and guess what those are? Plants. Decomposers are a special kind of organism. These are organisms that break down organic matter into simpler compounds and put it back into the soil. Decomposers recycle dead animals in the wild and plants. Plants die too. And they put those nutrients back into the soil for producers to use their roots and suck them back up. So mushrooms are a type of fungus. They are decomposers. Mold, if you've ever let bread get moldy in your cupboard, mold is a type of fungus. It is a decomposer. It is decomposing that old food. And if you throw it outside, it will eventually just decompose back into the soil. All right, on to 13.4. We are going to put these organisms into relationships. Start slideshow. There we go. So 13.4 is about food chains and food webs. And these both represent the flow of energy in an ecosystem. One is simpler. We start with the simple. And then we move up to the more complex. Again, this is a concept you guys should be at least a little bit familiar with. You should have heard of a food chain or a food web at some point in your academic career. So food chain is a model that shows feeding relationships between organisms. A food chain always starts with a producer at the bottom. And then each level in a food chain is called a trophic level. Remember, the root word troph means food. So these are just feeding levels. Trophic is our fancy science word for it. So there's two food chains in the picture. On the bottom, you have the producers, plants on land. In the water, plankton and algae serve as producers. And you can see, if you can see the tiny little arrows, they point up. There's a reason. We'll talk about that in a minute. You have all the levels of consumers on the top. So trophic levels, the arrows are pointing up because that's how energy flows. We take energy from what we eat. We don't give it to them. So the producers give energy to the primary consumers. The primary consumers are the herbivores. Primary means first, so that's just the first level of consumers. And the primary consumers will feed the secondary consumers, the second level of consumers. And in general, these tend to be small carnivores or even omnivores that might eat both. Secondary consumers feed and give energy to the tertiary consumers. Tertiary just means third. And these are the larger carnivores or omnivores. And then in the picture from before, there's even another level, quaternary consumers. Quaternary means fourth. It's the fourth level of consumers. And it's the same, large carnivores or omnivores. But write this down, write all the levels, write what kinds of the organisms, what kind of organisms are in each level. And then the arrows are the most important part of this. They always point up. Arrows represent energy flow. They do not represent what is eaten, they represent energy. So yes, you don't have to color code it, but be sure to write all this down too. And then we have food webs. A food web is a model that shows complicated feeding relationships because not everything fits into a nice, pretty chain.